In just 45 seconds, what was supposed to be a fun conversation about music turned into one of the most explosive meltdowns in daytime television history. A complete on-air disaster. Blake Shelton, the country music superstar who everyone loves, walked onto Jennifer Hudson's stage with a smile. But that smile didn't last long. Because what happened next was a fiery back-and-forth argument that got so heated, so personal, so out of control, that Blake ended up storming off the set while cameras were still rolling. This is what really went down last night. The lights were bright in the studio. The audience was clapping and cheering as Blake walked out wearing his usual jeans and button-up shirt, waving to everyone. Jennifer stood up from her chair, gave him a quick hug, and they both sat down. Everything seemed normal at first. Jennifer started asking Blake about his new album, about working on The Voice, about life on his ranch in Oklahoma. Blake was relaxed, telling funny stories, making the audience laugh. He talked about his dogs, about planting trees, about how he loves being away from the craziness of Hollywood. But then Jennifer shifted the conversation. Her tone changed. She leaned forward in her chair and brought up something that made Blake's smile fade instantly. She mentioned Gwen Stefani, Blake's wife, and how some people in the music industry have been saying that Gwen's career has been more successful than Blake's over the years. She said it like it was just a casual observation, but the way she said it felt pointed, like she was trying to poke at something. Blake's face tightened. He laughed it off at first, saying something like, "Well, Gwen's incredibly talented. Everyone knows that." But Jennifer didn't stop there. She kept pushing. She said, "But doesn't it bother you, though? I mean, she's got the fashion lines, the Vegas residency, the pop hits that everyone knows. What do you have? Country songs that only play in certain parts of the country?" The audience got quiet. You could feel the tension spreading through the room like a cold wind. Blake wasn't laughing anymore. He looked at Jennifer with this confused expression, like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. "What kind of question is that?" he asked. His voice was calm, but you could hear the edge in it. "Are you seriously trying to compare me and my wife right now? On your show?" Jennifer smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It was the kind of smile someone gives when they think they're being clever. "I'm just saying what a lot of people are thinking, Blake. You've been on The Voice for years, but when people think of that show, they think of the other coaches too. They don't just think of you. Gwen's got her own identity, her own brand. Do you ever feel like you're just Blake, Gwen's husband?" That was it. That was the moment everything changed. Blake sat up straighter in his chair, his jaw clenched. "Excuse me?" he said louder this time. "You're sitting here trying to tell me that I don't have my own identity? Lady, I've been making music since before you were even on American Idol. I've got more #1 hits than I can count. I've sold out arenas. I've built a life that I'm damn proud of. And you're really gonna sit there and try to make me feel small?" Jennifer didn't back down. Instead, she doubled down. "I'm not trying to make you feel small, Blake. I'm just asking honest questions. Questions that your fans might be wondering. Because let's be real, when was the last time you had a song that really mattered, that really made an impact outside of the country bubble?" The audience gasped. Some people looked uncomfortable, shifting in their seats. Blake's face turned red. Not embarrassed red, but angry red. The kind of red that happens when someone crosses a line they shouldn't have crossed. "The country bubble?" he repeated, his voice rising. "You mean the genre that's been around longer than pop music? The genre that tells real stories about real people? Yeah, that bubble. The one that made me who I am." Jennifer waved her hand dismissively, like his words didn't matter. "I'm just saying, Blake. Maybe it's time to accept that you're in Gwen's shadow now. There's nothing wrong with that. Some people are leaders, and some people are supporters." Blake stood up, not slowly, but fast, like something inside him snapped. "Are you out of your mind?" he said, his voice echoing through the studio. "You invited me here to talk about my music, my life, and instead you're sitting here disrespecting me, disrespecting my wife, disrespecting everything I've worked for. What the hell is wrong with you?" Jennifer tried to play it cool. She leaned back in her chair with this smug look on her face. "Blake, come on. Don't be so sensitive. We're just having a conversation." "A conversation?" Blake shot back. "This isn't a conversation. This is you trying to tear me down for no reason, and I'm not going to sit here and let you do it." He looked at the cameras, then back at Jennifer. "I don't know what your problem is, but this is the most disrespectful interview I've ever been a part of." The audience was dead silent now. Nobody was clapping, nobody was laughing. Everyone was just watching, wide-eyed, as this argument unfolded right in front of them. Jennifer stood up too, facing Blake. "My problem?" she said, her voice getting louder. "My problem is that people like you come on these shows and expect everyone to kiss your ass and tell you how great you are. Well, I'm not doing that. I'm asking real questions." Blake shook his head, looking disgusted. "Real questions? You're asking insulting questions. There's a difference. You don't know anything about me, about my marriage, about my career, and honestly, I don't think you care to know. You just wanted to create some drama for your show." "Maybe you can't handle the truth," Jennifer fired back. "Maybe you're not used to someone actually challenging you instead of just agreeing with everything you say." Blake laughed, but it was a bitter laugh. "Challenging me? You're not challenging me, Jennifer. You're disrespecting me, and I'm done with this." He started to walk toward the edge of the stage, but Jennifer kept talking. "Oh, so you're just going to walk away? Just like that? Can't handle a little heat?" Blake stopped and turned around. "A little heat? You just spent the last 10 minutes trying to convince me that I'm worthless compared to my own wife. You think that's just a little heat? That's not heat. That's just mean. That's just cruel." Jennifer crossed her arms. "I think you're being dramatic." "Dramatic?" Blake's voice got even louder. "You're calling me dramatic? You're the one who decided to ambush me on live television with this nonsense. I came here in good faith. I came here to have a nice conversation, to promote my album, to connect with your audience. And this is what you do?" Some people in the audience started clapping for Blake, supporting him. But Jennifer looked annoyed by that. "Oh, so now you're playing the victim?" she said. "Poor Blake Shelton can't handle a tough interview." Blake pointed at her, his hand shaking with anger. "This isn't a tough interview. A tough interview is asking hard questions about my music, about my choices, about my career. This is you being nasty for the sake of being nasty. There's a difference, and you know it." Jennifer stepped closer to him. "Maybe you're just upset because deep down, you know I'm right. You know that Gwen is the star in that relationship. You know that your best days are behind you." The audience gasped again. Blake's face went from red to almost purple. "You don't know a damn thing about my relationship," he said, his voice low and dangerous now. "You don't know what Gwen and I have. You don't know what we've built together. And for you to stand there and try to act like I'm some kind of loser who's riding my wife's coattails, that's not just wrong. That's disgusting." Jennifer smirked. "I'm just saying what the internet says." "The internet?" Blake threw his hands up. "Since when did you become a spokesperson for internet trolls? Is that what this show is now? Just repeating garbage from Twitter?" "It's called being honest, Blake," Jennifer said coldly. "Maybe you should try it sometime." Blake stared at her for a long moment. The whole studio was watching, waiting to see what would happen next. Then Blake shook his head slowly. "You know what? I feel sorry for you. I really do. Because if this is what you have to do to get ratings, to get people to watch your show, then you've already lost. You've lost your dignity. You've lost your class. And you've definitely lost my respect." Jennifer's smirk faded. "Get out then," she said. "If you can't handle it, just leave." "Oh, I'm leaving," Blake said. "Trust me, I'm leaving. But not because I can't handle it. I'm leaving because I don't waste my time with people who don't respect me." He started walking toward the stage exit again, and this time he didn't stop. His boots echoed on the floor as he moved. Jennifer called after him, "Real mature, Blake. Just run away." Blake turned one last time, pointing at her from the edge of the stage. "I'm not running away. I'm walking away from your BS. There's a difference." Then he looked at the audience. "Y'all deserve better than this. You deserve a host who treats her guests with respect, not whatever this is." Some of the audience members stood up and started clapping for Blake. Others sat there in shock, not knowing what to do. Jennifer looked furious now. Her face was tight. Her eyes were blazing. "Fine, go," she shouted. "We don't need you anyway." Blake didn't respond. He just kept walking. He walked right off the stage, past the cameras, past the crew members who were standing there with their mouths open. He disappeared through the backstage door, and it slammed shut behind him with a loud bang that echoed through the entire studio. For a moment, nobody said anything. Jennifer stood there on stage, breathing hard, looking at the spot where Blake had just been. The audience didn't know whether to clap or stay quiet. Some people were whispering to each other. Others were recording on their phones, trying to capture every second of what just happened. Finally, Jennifer turned to the cameras. She tried to compose herself, tried to put on a smile, but you could see the anger still burning in her eyes. "Well," she said, her voice shaky, "I guess Blake couldn't handle a real conversation." But nobody was buying it. The audience stayed mostly quiet. A few people booed. Jennifer looked around, realizing that the crowd wasn't on her side. "We'll be right back," she said quickly, and the show cut to commercial. But the damage was already done. What was supposed to be a simple interview had turned into a complete disaster. Blake Shelton, one of the biggest names in country music, had just walked off Jennifer Hudson's show in the middle of a live taping. And it was all because Jennifer had pushed him too far, had disrespected him too much, had crossed lines that should never be crossed. Backstage, crew members were scrambling, producers were panicking. Nobody knew what to do. This kind of thing doesn't happen on daytime talk shows. Guests don't just walk off. Hosts don't usually attack their guests like that. But it happened. And everyone saw it. Blake was already in his dressing room, grabbing his things. A producer knocked on the door, trying to convince him to come back, trying to smooth things over. But Blake wasn't having it. "I'm done," he told the producer through the door. "I'm not going back out there." That was unacceptable. The producer kept trying. "Blake, please, we can fix this. We can reshoot. We can edit it." Blake opened the door just a crack. "Fix it? How are you gonna fix what she said? How are you gonna edit out the fact that she insulted me, insulted my wife, insulted my entire career on live television? No, I'm leaving. And you can tell Jennifer that she owes me an apology. Not that I'm expecting one." He closed the door and finished packing up. A few minutes later, he walked out of the building. Cameras from paparazzi were already outside, having heard about what happened. They shouted questions at him, asking what went wrong, asking if he was okay. Blake didn't answer. He just got in his car and drove away. Back inside the studio, the show tried to continue. Jennifer brought out her next guest, tried to act like everything was normal. But it wasn't normal. The energy in the room was completely different. The audience was distracted, still talking about what they'd just witnessed. Social media was already exploding with clips of the argument, with people taking sides, with hashtags trending. And Jennifer? She tried to keep smiling, tried to keep doing her job, but you could see it in her eyes. She knew she'd messed up. She knew she'd gone too far. She'd invited a respected artist onto her show, and instead of having a good conversation, she'd attacked him. She'd questioned his worth, his talent, his marriage, and now she was dealing with the consequences. The show ended awkwardly. Jennifer thanked the audience, but her voice lacked its usual warmth. People left the studio buzzing with gossip, pulling out their phones to text their friends about what they'd seen. This wasn't just going to be forgotten. This was going to be talked about for days, maybe weeks. Blake Shelton, the easygoing country star who's known for his sense of humor and his laid-back attitude, had been pushed to his breaking point. And Jennifer Hudson, the host who was supposed to make her guests feel welcome and comfortable, had become the villain of her own show. She'd turned what should have been a fun interview into a confrontation that ended with her guest walking out. In the world of daytime television, this was huge. Guests don't walk off shows. This kind of drama doesn't happen. But last night, it did. And it was all captured on camera, broadcast live for everyone to see. Blake Shelton had had enough, and he wasn't going to sit there and take it anymore. He'd stood up for himself, defended his career, defended his marriage, and walked away with his dignity intact. Jennifer, on the other hand, was left standing on that stage, facing an audience that had just watched her cross every line. And there was no taking it back, no editing it out, no pretending it didn't happen. The interview that was supposed to be about music and life and success had turned into something else entirely. It became a moment that showed what happens when a host forgets that their job is to have conversations, not confrontations. When they forget that respect matters. when they forget that their guests are human beings with feelings, not just props for ratings. Blake Shelton walked off that stage, and he took the moral high ground with him. He didn't yell obscenities. He didn't throw things. He didn't lose control. He simply said what needed to be said and left. And in doing so, he showed everyone watching exactly who the real problem was. Jennifer Hudson's show will go on. She'll have more guests, more interviews, more episodes. But this moment, this confrontation, this disaster, will be remembered. It'll be the time she went too far. The time she forgot what her job was really about. The time she turned an interview into an interrogation and lost a guest in the process. Blake Shelton is back home now, probably on his ranch, probably with Gwen, probably putting this whole mess behind him. But for everyone who watched last night's episode, who saw that argument unfold in real time, this is something they won't forget. Because it was real. It was raw. It was uncomfortable. And it was completely avoidable. All Jennifer had to do was be respectful. All she had to do was ask normal questions, have a normal conversation, treat her guest like a guest. But she didn't. She chose to attack. She chose to push buttons. She chose to create drama. And in the end, she's the one who looks bad, not Blake. Blake walked away looking like the bigger person, like someone who knows his worth and won't let anyone tear him down. That's what happened last night on Jennifer Hudson's show. That's the story of how a simple interview turned into one of the most dramatic moments in daytime television. That's how Blake Shelton ended up walking off stage, leaving Jennifer standing there alone, realizing too late that she'd made a terrible mistake. The cameras kept rolling even as Blake left. They caught every moment, every word, every expression. And now the world knows exactly what went down. There's no spinning this. No putting a positive twist on it. It was a disaster, plain and simple. And it was all Jennifer's fault. So, when you think about last night's episode, when you remember Blake Shelton on Jennifer Hudson's show, remember this. Respect matters. How you treat people matters. And when you forget that, when you let your ego or your need for drama take over, you end up losing. Not just the argument, but the respect of everyone watching. Blake Shelton walked off that stage with his head held high. And Jennifer Hudson? She's going to have to live with the consequences of what she said, what she did, and how she treated one of country music's biggest stars. Because at the end of the day, people remember moments like this. They remember who was right and who was wrong. And last night, there was no question about it. Blake was right. Jennifer was wrong. And everyone saw it happen.